Okay, guys, this is really seriously it. This is the last time I am going to invade your living rooms, kitchens, dining rooms, wherever it is, school, wherever it is you're watching this. We left off with collectivist consensus. We've gone over this several different times. Just briefly, Thatcherism. Obviously, Maggie Thatcher came into being during the winter of discontent in 1978 to 79. And her big deal, and you gotta know her policies. She was, very neoliberal is what is the terminology that's used. She's all about free market, privatization, laissez-faire policies, get the government out of your business. Remember, her policies were super harsh, no government support or subsidies or programs or whatever. She was very much get off your butts, get a job. We can't afford to keep you on the dole anymore. No more womb to tomb coverage is Thatcherism. Then Tony Blair was like, whoa, the milk snatcher was a little harsh. He's going to run on a different platform and say there's a third alternative here. We don't have to do it, one extreme or the other. Um, Remember my golf swing? Collectivist consensus on the one hand, the golf swing up to the other hand is Thatcherism, and then we come back to the middle. So third way, 1997 to the present has been pretty much articulated as the third way, though I'm not so sure that we aren't leaning back to more towards Thatcherism with the UK. I think that's pretty clear with the conservative um, bent the way it's going lately. But nonetheless, we could debate that at another time. So Blair and his New Labour, moderate, centrist. Remember, he had a bunch of reforms. You should know those. He did the Supreme Court. He had the European Human Rights Convention, where that was a pretty big deal at the time. He had the House of Lords decreasing the number of peers and whatever else I said he had. So check those notes. You should know a lot about Blair, a lot about Thatcher. They really are big shots in UK political history. All right, oil is important, obviously, to the UK. In fact, one of the reasons Scotland thought that they could give it a go on Scottish independence was because of the North Sea oil supplies, which they have direct access to. That would have ended up being a big dispute who had claims to that oil, I believe. And so Scotland thinks, hey, it's off the coast of our sea, that's ours if we go independent. Whereas London would have said, no way, that's been, supplying the whole country for hundreds of years, not hundreds, but for a long time. So 60% of the country's oil needs are fulfilled by their own North Sea oil reserves. And then Brexit. I think that's going to create an economic change. How the UK will fare, who knows? We're going to debate that tomorrow. Can't wait. It remains to be seen. We don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if their economy fluctuates one way or another. We'll see how it goes. All right, women and minorities. Women, 22% of the women in the House of Commons are women. MPs, 22%. That is up from ours, not by much, but they're ahead of us. And by the way, they have had two heads of government, two prime ministers, now Theresa May being the second. So, I'm just going to say that at some point here, if it's not Hillary Clinton, it's got to be somebody, because we represent 50% of the population here in our country. But don't worry, I'm not going to get off on that soapbox. I'm trying to do this quickly. I know I can hardly stand it. Minorities, 18% of the population are minorities, but only 4% of MPs are minorities. So that percentage is even worse. Well, I don't know if it's worse or not. That's a math problem. Somebody else can figure it out. Maybe it's better. I don't know. Anyway, it's all bad. Women and minorities are not represented adequately in the House of Commons. That hopefully will change going forward. And then the Equality Act of 2010 has prohibited discrimination in the workplace. They have many of the same issues with gender wage gap and so forth like we have. Gender being a special class here too in the United States, and the Supreme Court has articulated equal protection for women. They cannot be denied something on the basis of their gender. So, moving on, cleavages. All right, we talked in class just recently. Social class is by far and above the biggest cleavage, has been for a long time, and that stems really from the Industrial Revolution. We talked about the different media publications. We talked about education being a big source of social class cleavage, private versus public education, all those hoity-toity elite private prep schools that are really inattainable for a large chunk of the population. Social class, clearly the most dominant of all the cleavages. However, coming in a close second, I would put regional nationalism. This devolution of powers to all of their sub-governments has been basically a disaster to UK sovereignty. What's to prevent, if Scotland goes, what's to prevent Wales from going? Or Northern Ireland? I mean, they're across the pond. So, I think this is problematic for the UK. I hope that they can make Scotland happy. Right now, they're not happy because they were for staying in the EU and now they're not. So, again, we're just going to have to see how this plays out. But when you've got this much turmoil internally, it doesn't bode well for your status as a world power globally. All right, religious cleavages. We talked about the Protestant versus Catholic, and then Christian versus Islam. I'm not going to go over those again, but you can write those in your cells. And if you need to go back for more information, then you can. Are these cleavages dangerous? In other words, are they coinciding? I don't know. I don't know. In some respects, I think the Scottish succession issue is a bit of a coinciding cleavage because you've got really, more urban population in the north in Scotland. You've got more wealth in London versus Scotland. There may be a case to be made for coinciding cleavages between Scotland and the seat of political power in London. Islamic terrorism, this is obviously dangerous. It's dangerous for all of us. And last but not least, political change. The effects of globalization are making themselves known in many regions of the world. And much of it is positive, but as we have already noted in our intro unit, there are some negatives as well. The market fluctuations, if the EU is struggling under the weight of its 28 members with one big one now leaving, that is going to have a ripple effect in other areas of the world. It's just the US is going to suffer if the EU can't get its legs under it. It's propping up governments like Greece and Portugal and Ireland that can't pay their bills, and that is going to put a drag on its economy. And, there's just no way around it. We are interconnected with all of the regions of the world because we are, a proponent and we are participating in globalization. Democratization. Democratic consolidation is alive and well in Britain, but yet they have these little bastions of traditional non-democratic aspects, like the hereditary peers, like the government-owned media and so forth. It's such an oxymoron. And why those two things exist, I don't really know, but they shouldn't. It really, for a democratic consolidated nation like the UK, it makes no sense. So hopefully they'll get that figured out, but it's tradition. It's like moving a glacier. Regional governments given more power. Clearly, this is, allowing better representation for those sub-governments to pass laws that don't conflict with London, but that are more endemic to the regions in which they reside. This is, something that Tony Blair advocated and the Labour Party gave to these various regions, but it's kind of come back to bite them in the butt. So, we'll see what happens there. At this point, it would be very difficult to pull back the devolved powers. If anything, it's going the other direction. All right, no revolutions except for 1688, but that's hardly recent. So that's it, you guys. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Can't wait to debate Brexit. Can't wait till our Twitter on during the election tomorrow night. All right, take care. Bye-bye.